If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Brilliant. Hello, everybody. Good to be with you tonight. Glad to be back in this space once more. We have just finished up going through the different pieces of the Lord's Prayer. Before that, we did the Ten Commandments, and now we are jumping into another topic altogether. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about something that's coming up in a few weeks called Lent Mentoring. Now, 7th and 8th graders, you guys have more or less been through this before. Some of you have not yet, but more of you have than certainly our 6th graders. 6th graders, where are you guys again? 6th graders over here? Is that where you guys are sitting? Okay. Some of you other places too? Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about what this is. So during the time of Lent, which is the time from Ash Wednesday until Easter Sunday, we don't meet as our regular large group and small group stuff. There's still things going on for confirmation, and in fact, your attendance is even more important during Lent than the other times of the year. Ardall folks, this doesn't quite apply to you. I think Pastor Brigitte, you guys are doing something different. It does apply, okay. Got it. So Ardall folks, everything that I'm saying applies to you just at Ardall for Lent as opposed to here. Calvary folks, all this stuff applies to you 100%. So we don't have our regular large and small group stuff. However, during Lent, on the Wednesday nights, you're still supposed to come to church, especially during the church service. We'll be having some dramas, that kind of thing. And then following the church service, you'll be getting together with your Lent mentor to answer some questions together, have some conversation about not only that drama that occurred during worship, but other things that you might want to have some conversation about. Now, the reason I say that attendance is even more important during Lent than other times, and I will be sending out an email to all your parents to let them know this too, is that these Lent mentors are giving of themselves to you specifically for this entire time of Lent. And it's not very kind to have them be scheduled to come and visit with you, and then they don't have someone to visit with. They don't show up. Now, I get it. If someone's sick, if something else happens, that's something that occurs. Make sure you let me know if you're not going to be here, especially during Lent. Use the Remind app, use email, use phone, whatever it might be, so that I can let your Lent mentor know that you're not going to be there that night. Because it's a really disheartening thing for someone to sign up, to spend time with you over these number of weeks, and then they don't show up. Does that make sense? Okay, so a little bit about what's going to happen tonight in your small groups. There are a bunch of pieces of paper that small group leaders you'll find in your folder that are like mentor request forms, okay? So I would like each of you to fill one of these out. There's a spot to fill in 5 different names. Think of people that you might want to spend some time having conversations with each week. Conversations usually go about 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's not a super long, involved thing unless you want it to be. And you want it to be someone who is preferably not your small group leader, so someone outside of your small group, not a family member, because you want it to be someone else that you haven't had a chance to meet yet. Can't be Pastor Chris or myself, because we have other duties during those times. But think about other people that you might want to connect with, adults in the congregation. If you don't have any ideas, you can talk to your small group leaders, see if they can come up with some ideas. Also, I will be recruiting leaders to kind of match you up with. Now, when you make your selections, I cannot guarantee that I can get those mentors for you. I use these kind of as a list to kind of contact people and see if we can bring them in. It might be that a lot of people pick the same people. That happens all the time. They're more to help me guide my process of matching you up. So I can't promise that you'll get the same person that you want, but I will do my best in that regard. 7th and 8th graders that have had mentors before, I will absolutely do my best to get you paired up with the same mentor you had previously, so you can continue to develop that relationship. I do still want you to put down some additional names in case that person is not available this year for you. Well, that's what the question is, can I put down vulnerable names? And I have that information already. That's in my database from last year, who the mentors and mentee pairs were, which you can put it on there if you like, but this is more of if that person is not available or whatever, I would prefer to have these kind of people. Once again, I can't promise that any of you are going to get the people that you write down, but it does help me kind of guide that process of matching you up. So Wednesday night, Ash Wednesday, which is coming up in 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Woo! We'll be having a time when we'll get together and pair each other up with our mentors. I am really going to try to come up with a process that works smoothly. This is my running aspiration for all of these years. I want to have this work smoothly. And so we'll see if we can do this where you can match up quickly with your mentors and have some time to discuss. So that'll be happening throughout that time of Lent. Any questions about what Lent mentoring is, how it works, anything regarded to it? Okay. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. Pull me aside, shoot me an email, whatever you like. I would love to answer questions for you. But that's all I want to talk about that tonight, because I do want to get into our topic of the evening. So as I said, we're jumping into a new section that Martin Luther talks about in the Small Catechism, which has to do with the Apostles' Creed. Now, who here has heard of the Apostles' Creed before? I see a bunch of hands. That's great. Where have you heard of the Apostles' Creed? Let's go over here. Right here, that's right. We do it during church, right? Often we will recite the creed together as part of the worship service. Brody, in a Bible. You found the Apostles' Creed in a Bible? Really? That's impressive, because usually I don't find them in the Bibles. Yeah. A video game. Which game? Apostles' Creed? That's not the one I was thinking of. I have definitely played Assassin's Creed before. I don't think I've played Apostles' Creed before. It's a little bit of a different game, though, but it has the same concept, right? So, yes, Bree. In the Small Catechism, yes, Luther talks about it in the Small Catechism. Well, let's break this up a little bit. Apostles' Creed. Those are two words that we don't really use all that much in everyday conversation. Creed, we have Assassin's Creed as the video game, but really we don't encounter these two words too much. However, they are vocab words. So let's talk about them a little bit. Anybody have any idea what we mean by an apostle? What or who is an apostle? A person who goes and spreads the word about Jesus and God. Absolutely, that fits into the definition of apostle. Anybody else? So someone who spreads the word about Jesus? Yeah. A follower of Jesus or an ambassador for Jesus, which does exactly what Isaac's talking about, the one who kind of shares the words of Jesus. Now, in our understanding of the apostles, when we talk about the apostles, capital T, capital A, we often talk about a specific group of people. We kind of talk about that as the disciples plus a few other people. Now, the difference between a disciple and an apostle is a little bit academic, although it really has a lot to do with those two sentences. A follower of Jesus, that could fit more in with just a disciple, right? An ambassador for Jesus, though, is something in addition to that. So when the disciples of Jesus first got to know him, and they're following him around, and they're learning from him, they really fit under that first definition. They were followers of Jesus, right? Disciple can absolutely be a follower, but an apostle is a little bit more than that too. It's not just someone who follows and learns from somebody, but it's someone who goes and shares that word with others, is an ambassador for Jesus. What does it mean to be an ambassador for something? Any ideas? If I was going to be an ambassador for, I don't know, an ambassador for baseball, what would that be? Marin? I represent it, right. So if I'm an ambassador for the game of baseball, maybe I'm going and I'm talking about baseball to people and explaining it to them and kind of being a representative for that game. Or an ambassador for Jesus, what might I do as an ambassador for Jesus? Yes, Sir Carter? Talk about the pros of Jesus. Absolutely, that would be something I could do as an ambassador. Also through my actions, right? Not just what I talk about, but what I do. We talk about this as kind of showing who Jesus is, not only by what we say, but what we do. And so the apostles were people who not only followed Jesus, but also then went and were ambassadors for Jesus in that way. Now, does that also apply to us? Are we apostles of Jesus? Yes, we are. I can see a lot of nodding heads here. The idea of being apostle is not just for those original few folks who were doing that, it's also for us. We're followers of Jesus. We are also ambassadors for Jesus. We ourselves are apostles. But when we're talking about the Apostles' Creed, it's talking about like something to do with those original folks. Now, what's that second part of that statement, the creed? What is a creed? Anybody have an idea what a creed is? Yeah, over here. I love it. Yes, it is a shared statement of belief. Now, what does that mean? What is that definition? What is a shared statement of belief? If I was going to say, what is that? What does that bring? A faith statement, absolutely. So when we're in 8th grade here, end of our 8th grade year, we write a faith statement, right? Some of you have probably seen our 9th graders sharing their faith statements from up here where they talk about their faith, the different things that are part of their faith and who they are. Well, a creed has to do with a shared faith statement. It's how we're talking about the things in our faith that we hold together, that are part of what our community is. What do we believe as a community, as a church, as a group? So the Apostles' Creed was something that existed I think the first examples of it are like from 200 to 300 AD, where the communities of Christians were coming together and saying, what is it exactly that makes us unique? I mean, yes, we have this Jesus person, but maybe we should kind of define what that means. What do we mean when we say we believe in Jesus? That's kind of a nebulous statement. And so over time, this idea of a creed, a shared statement of belief, was developed. And it's come down to us in a few different forms. We have the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, the Athanasian Creed. The one that we're focusing on this go-around is the Apostles' Creed, okay? And so that's one thing we do in church often is we'll recite it together, not only to kind of remind ourselves about these ideas of faith, these articles of faith that we have, but to kind of do it together as a way to kind of remind us that we're not part of just me and God, but part of a whole community of people that are followers of Christ, ambassadors of Christ. Now, the Apostles' Creed is broken up, it's pretty short, but it's broken up into 3 different sections, 3 articles. What else do we know in our understanding of God that comes in 3 things? 3? Yes, right there, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity, right? And the Apostles' Creed is actually broken up the same way. The 3 articles each have to do with one part of the Trinity. First article is God the Father. Second article, God the Son. Third article, God the Holy Spirit. And so today we are talking about the first article, which is this. I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. That is not the picture that's on my screen, but that's interesting. Okay, it's the words that are on my screen, so that's all that really matters there. That is the first article. It's a pretty short thing, pretty simple statement, one sentence. It's the shortest of all the articles of the Creed. I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. But I think it's important for us to consider that it's probably not just that one sentence, right? As with all things, we ask that Lutheran question, what on earth does this mean? So what does it mean? I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. What do you guys think? Isaac, what you got? Maybe they believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. That's very likely. But what do we mean by that? What do we mean when we say God the Father, creator of heaven and earth? Yes, sir, Evan. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Thank you, Martin Luther. Yeah, all that, everything that Evan just said. Yeah, there's a lot of actual meaning packed into this, right? It's not just, okay, I believe in this concept, God the Father, creator of heaven and earth, one sentence. There is a lot within that. When we think about God the creator, right? Think about all the things that means. All the things that God has had a hand in creating. Obviously, that's things like you and me, the people that are here. But I want you just to imagine with me what that entails. That simple sentence, God the creator of heaven and earth. I mean, we're talking about things that are like the forests, right? Imagine being in a forest, a gigantic forest, lots of trees, lots of animals. Think of all the sounds that you hear. The birds, the squirrels going crazy, maybe even hear like the deer rustling through the branches like they do in my backyard, that kind of thing. There's a lot happening in forests, right? God created all of that, from all the trees down to the ants and everything in between. That's a huge amount of things. Then we have mountains, right? Who here has been to mountains before? Yeah, a lot of people have been to mountains. They're big, a lot bigger than me. They are big things, and they encompass a whole other group of animals, plants, rivers, streams, everything else that's going on with that. God has a hand in creating all of that. Or the oceans. Think about how big the oceans are. Think about all the things that live in the oceans, things that we've actually never seen. There are plenty of things left to be discovered by humanity in the oceans that God has created that we've never actually laid eyes on at all, right? The oceans are vast, and God created all of those. Think about the deserts, if that picture would come up. There we go. Think about the deserts of the earth, the things that dwell within them, the vast tracts of land that are covered by these deserts. Think of every single grain of sand that exists on all the deserts, on all the earth, and that God created each grain of sand. Now, something else that I find absolutely fascinating when I think about deserts and all the sand that's in them, sand is a really fascinating thing because there's a lot of it, right? If you look at this picture, that's a lot of grains of sand when you think about that, right? And one thing that absolutely blows my mind is that that's another way of imagining how absolutely huge God is. Because when we think about the universe, did you know there are more stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way, than there are grains of sand in every desert on Earth, all the beaches on Earth, every single grain of sand? There are more stars in the galaxy in which we live than that. All of them with their own planets, and God made all of those. God did. And then think about this. This is a picture taken by the James Webb Space Telescope of a patch of sky. Those are not stars. Those are galaxies. There are also more galaxies in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. That is a lot. Carter. Fun fact. I love fun facts. The universe is quite literally always expanding. That's right. And it's expanding so fast that we would never be able to explore it even if we had the chance to do so. Think about this. The same God who knows you better than you know yourself is the same God who created all those galaxies, all of the stars in those galaxies, all of the planets that are surrounding those stars, everything that inhabits them, everything that is part of that creation, God made. All of it. All of that comes together in this one sentence. I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. So though this first article of the Creed is a pretty simple sentence, what's encompassed within that is huge. It is a big deal for us to say that, right? We believe that the same God who made us made all that exists anywhere and forever. And that brings us to our memory verse to today. which is from Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. It says, "By faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible." Again, talking to us about this idea of the Creator God, that first article of the Creed, God, who made all of these things with a loving touch, because that's who God is. God is not only someone who loves us more than we will ever know, God is creative. God is someone who is constantly making and remaking and designing and imagining all of these incredible things in all of creation, and we get to be a part of that. I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. So today, when you go into your small groups, I want you to first spend a little bit of time talking about the mentor thing and filling out those forms. Not too long, take as much time as you need for that, but I also want you to focus on this idea of the first article of the Creed. There's some stuff in your worksheets that are good conversation starters for what we talk about, what we think about when we talk about God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. And then next week and the week after that, we'll be coming back to talk about the second and third articles of the Creed, so that when we gather in worship and we read this Creed together, we say this Creed together, we might do so with a little bit of a deeper understanding, right? It's one thing to read and say it when it's just words on the screen, but when it's something that we can really think about when we say it, it comes into a whole other meaning. And I think that's what Luther's getting at when he writes all that stuff that Evan talked about in the Small Catechism. It's to get us to think about what it is that we're saying when we say these creedal statements. Sound good? All right. You are dismissed to your small groups. Have some good conversations. Small group leaders, bring those mentor forms when you bring your folders back to the office, please.